Alright, there's 3 bolts here. And then that holds that on. The shock comes up through here, and there's a T right there. You take these 2 bolts off, twist the shock, take these 3 bolts off, and pull that off the shock. At least that's what I did. And then that bolt, you undo those, and then you have to take a hammer and hit the bolts out. And then this comes down. See? Now I have to raise the car up and get some of these bolts under here, and this should just fall out. Alright, now that it's hanging there, I took this loose from the fitment arm. This is connected, so I gotta get that disconnected. I pulled these 2 bolts. I'm gonna pull these 2 bolts, and then so after this is off and this is off, all that'll be left is these bolts right here. And these, well, actually I have to take these 2 bolts out too, which are for the other, I guess you could call that a pitman arm right there. Alright, this is the shock tower. And what I'm going to do is cut around just as close as I can, and then I'll trim it in later. You can see this seam. I'm going to stay inside this seam all the way down and around the tower. So I'm going to cut through here and then cut down here and around this, and then up the other side and around here, and then back to this seam on this other side here. And that's what it looks like when it's cut out, and that's what it looks like when it's cut out. I still got a lot of cleaning up to do. I gotta get all this crap off of here and get those bolts out, those 3 bolts and that other side there, and get it cleaned up. So I just used a torch. You can use whatever you want, but the torch was easiest for me. Okay, got both of them out. I gotta clean all that up. And I gotta repair that. That's a big old hole. And on this side, it's rotted out there too. That's where the bumper mounts. Right there is where the bumper mounts. So I'll have to get some replacement metal and cut that. And then I gotta clean up the rest of the hole. And get it prepped for putting a plate on it. Got it cleared off a little bit. I'm gonna have to, get a grinder and do the rest, but I used a chipping hammer to get this. There's a lot of repair work that's gonna need to be done. I think I found a way to do it, or to know that it's square, I should say. If I measure from this hole, that's the same on both sides. So measure from that hole maybe to out here, because that's what the instructions want me to go off of, is this edge. I might be able to, I don't replace that with square stock, or it's either that or just grind it out like I did over on the other side over here. Right here. I just grinded it out till I found good metal, and then I put new metal in. I might be able to do that here. I have to think about it. Now it looks like these sleeves are gonna cover most of the damage, and all I'll have to do is repair where the bumper gets mounted, which won't be a big deal, because the strength is from here back anyways for where the motor's gonna mount. This is gonna go on one side. I gotta cut a moon in this, and it's gonna box it in. So I gotta measure it and line it up and then trace that and then cut it out. I gotta cut this lip off here. And that lip off right there, so that it'll box in. Got to measure it from there, I think it's 21 inches, back to here somewhere, make a line, and then center that moon shape. Alright, I got one side clamped in. You measure from right here on the radiator support to here, 24 1/4. That's the center of this curve. And I used a square and wrapped the line around. And then I drew a line here and here with the square and here, and then I cut this out because this is part of the frame, and this is ready to weld in. This is kind of thin right here, but this weld here and this weld here isn't really going to matter in the end, because I'm going to cut this out here and replace it with metal somehow, and then I'm going to weld it to good metal to this anyway. And where the strength of this comes in is the welds going across each corner and boxing it in, but it's really held on right here with these welds, and this is still solid. So I'll be able to weld all the way around here and here mostly, and then this I'm gonna have to replace too. I'll probably wind up cutting all that out or something, I don't know, but I need to get this in first, because I can't mess with this, because it'll move that radiator support, and then my measurement won't be correct to get this divot in the right spot. So this is right now, and I'm going to tack it in, and then I'm going to use the clamps to do this side. So see, I made the mark there with the marker already, because I clamped it, measured it, and measured from this center line, which I centered with this, and this center line to here again. And before I do that, I gotta cut this lip out here. There's a lip right there. I gotta cut that out all the way across from here to here. And I already cut that. This lip was here, but that was part of what the shock tower was, but you just got to get that flush. So I got to get a thick grinder and grind about 1/8 of an inch off of this, because there's a bump right here, and then I can box this side in. Alright, I laid that up there, measured it to 24 1/4 at the center like I said, dropped a square like that, line, took this piece, laid it up under there, lined it up and drew a line. Now all I have to do is cut that out with a grinder. Alright, I got it cut out. It was pretty simple because it's about the radius of a grinder wheel, so I just turn the wheel like that and cut it. So now I'm ready to lay the plates in just like I did the other side there. Clamp them in and tack them. This side's a lot better, a lot more solid. Alright, it's all clamped in and lined up and ready to weld. I don't need to bevel nothing because I got it gapped out pretty nice, and I can just fill that whole thing in with weld. I just noticed this piece of tin's in the way, but I guess I'll get most of it welded here across here. Not sure what I should do about that. Alright, I got it fitted in. All I did was take a Sharpie and make like a 1/16 line. So basically just marked it with the marker on the very edge and then took the marker line off on each side of this notch. And then it wouldn't go straight up in there because the frame's kind of twisted. So I had to bring it out here and then bring it up and slide it in and tap it in with the hammer. It'll actually stay up. I got the jack just so it won't fall, just because it's not like really tight, but it will stay up there on its own. That side looks just a little bit snugger than that side because this side I believe is twisted a little bit. So now I gotta build it because I might have to take it back off to finish some welds. I gotta put a pin in here. I gotta put a pin in here and a pin out here, I think, and weld it in. You'll see, I guess. Alright, I lined it up center to center there. The center line I made before. And I drew a center line on this. And then I lined them up, marked them. And I think I'm going to go ahead and tack it in because I don't see any reason why I can't just build this on the car. So I'm going to tack them in like 2 places on each side. And then I need to tack these in and then remove these and weld them. Although if I go slow enough, I shouldn't even have to remove them. I can just tack them in and then just weld them in place, because it seems like if I just do it slow enough, the bushings shouldn't get too hot, because I don't want it to warp on me when I go to put the bolt back in, and I don't want it to warp on me at all. So I'd be like weld with 1 inch here and 1 inch here, and then let it cool. We'll see. It's just a thought. Well, I got it together. I need to get some grease and grease the bearing, pack the bearings before I can put the wheels on. Completely welded in. I trusted that I wouldn't have to move it because the instructions seem to be right on other videos I watched. So hopefully the wheels hopefully the wheels are in the right spot. I'm pretty sure they will be though, because I measured several times. Alright, I put the wheels on from the 14 Mustang. Obviously it needs to, well, it needs to be aligned. It's not even sitting on it. I need to take it off and let it sit on the wheels. Those tires are way too wide. It's touching the frame right there. It's not touching there though, even though it looks like it kind of is, but it's not. Tire touches the frame first. I could gain another ½ inch by cutting this lip out, but I'm gonna put skinnies up here anyway, because these are the only ones that'll go on right now. The skinnies I need stems for. I got this strapped up so that the rear end won't move. I actually was able to center it like this, but you can tell that's going to be right in the way of the drive shaft. So putting a diagonal bar there is not going to work. I'm going to have to figure out something else, because I was thinking about using one diagonal bar where one of these straps would go, but it would have to be a lot lower than that. And so I might be able to get above it, maybe go up there and attach, and then attach up on top, make a diagonal bar on top, and I might be able to even exit. In fact, that's what I probably should do with the straps, now that I'm thinking about it. There, that's a lot better. That's probably where I'll put my diagonal bar. That'll keep it square for now, and I can move on to other things. Alright, this is the shaft. I got it out of the gearbox. It needs to be this spline for the, if I want to keep the original steering wheel. This bushing right here is bigger than the shaft. The shaft wobbles in it. So I don't know how it didn't shake before, but that's too loose. And then I wrote down the size of that bushing, which is much bigger. So it's two different sizes, a smaller bushing on the steering wheel end and a bigger bushing on the gearbox end. And then this shaft is really small. So there was a bushing that went here, and it's even loose on that, but there was a bearing in there, so the bushing would slide in there, and that's what screwed to the gearbox. this bushing goes inside of the steering column, and then but this is too big because it's made for a bearing to be pushed in to press in there. So I'm gonna need to find a shaft with the right sizes. So that's the battery tray. I'm gonna remove that, and I'm thinking I might make a plate that goes around like that. And then this is metal here, so I could put a metal angle iron or something there to put the plate to make that flush. Then I can put a piece of metal here to fill that hole. That's where the bump stop right here bolted on right here, and it rusted out where the bump stop used to be right here. There's a little hole right there that I gotta figure out, and right here there's some rot up against the firewall, and there's a big hole right there. And then the rest of the firewall seems to be pretty solid. I hit it with a needle scaler, and then there's some rot in this corner too, but it's not near as bad. So there might still be some caulk. Somebody caulked it. I had to get the caulk out. And then this is even more rot in here, but I could cut that off square because it's pretty solid, all even up to right here. It's pretty solid, so I could cut that off square and put a piece in there. And I can probably do something similar with this. And then the wiring, I need to pull the wires off, and I need to get rid of this. And then I think I'm going to try to patch that. They got a bunch of stuff. They got a bunch of stuff you can buy on the internet to replace this stuff, and it seems like it's cheap. It's $60 per side. But I order stuff and then I don't use it sometimes, so I think I'm gonna attempt to repair what I have first. And the steering column is in. I have to get that out of the box and see if there's a mount for that. This top lip seems like it's in okay shape. There are some videos of some people building these where they just go straight from here to where it's actually at right there, but they take this 2 inches out and they put a piece of square stock here and go right there, right? Well, that's gonna make the wheel rub when you turn, because now you got it all the way in here. And so you'd almost see how this kicks out. Well, there's a reason for that, because it needs that space for the wheel. The top of the wheel right here would turn in and possibly hit there. And see, this one's the same way. It needs that space there. And so I'm thinking I'm just gonna fix what's here instead of trying to make it perfectly smooth. These dents cause rigidity too, so I think for this, where it's rotten, I can just cut across here and then put in a piece of patch plate and weld it. And well, I already went over that. And then this, I might cut a square out and make it even that much wider on both sides. Because after I get this out of here, that'll make it so I can put a much wider radiator. Because you can see how small the hole is for the original radiator. Well, I could make that hole bigger, probably cut this out altogether, like all the way back to here or whatever, or towards, next to the frame here, and cut a big old hole in this. and then maybe reinforce it somehow, but then I'd be able to put a much bigger radiator in and still keep this original framework. I was thinking about taking the, see that I already tried to remove a bolt. That's gonna have to be sucked in, but I don't want to remove this because I'm afraid it'll break on its way off, because all the bolts see how rusty they are? Where are they? There's one there, looks like. Couple there. You can't really see them because they just kind of blend right in. But there's one here, and one here, and a couple here and over here. I don't know. I'll probably end up taking it off at some point. But that's what I'm dealing with. Just unboxed those. Looks better already. See, that took care of 90% of the problems. All the rest is going to be little small patches. I think that'll work for replacement metal. See that divot right there, how that dents in so that the hood can go on like it's supposed to, and that one dents in to make a certain width for the brake booster and the steering and the hinge. That has to be there, and so it's not just a simple put a plate in thing. It's more intricate than that. Maybe in the front end this all could be just flat and straight, but like I said, wheel clearance, so this edge really needs to be here. All right. That was pretty thin right there. That's why it looks so goobery. But it's solid now. And then that was a 1/4 inch gap. I had to really take that one slow. Now I gotta get a plate right here. I might cut this square or something. That'd probably be the next thing I do, though, is bring that down to meet right here. Alright, I cut the slip off just now so that the tire would have the same clearance on this side as it does the other side. And I left this lip because it won't be seen, and it adds strength because there's welds right here. And then I welded this across here because it was open, and grinded it smooth. Ow. Then over here, put in a patch here, right here, all the way across. the bottom was good. And then I put in a patch right here to about right there. And this was all good right here. And I already showed you that one, I think. That didn't turn out too bad. I find the hole where it's supposed to go and maybe weld a tab here if it needs to come out just a little bit more. But the fender comes to here, so. And then that plate that I got is going to cover this mostly. Save myself a bunch of money. Well, I still got to do that. But I think I'm going to be able to save it. Okay. Throw some paint on that and you probably won't even be able to see it. And it's pretty solid. I was going to fix that, but then I started thinking, well, my last build, I put exhaust through there and I might wind up wanting to cut that anyway for exhaust. So I'm going to leave that open for now. And I'm going to leave that unrepaired, but maybe tomorrow or the next day I'll see about what I can do about these holes right here. I think you can see daylight through it. That'll be a little bit harder to do because it's not easy to get to. And then I got to figure out how I'm going to repair this because that's not good. I might just get some tin and wrap it around here or something. I don't know. I know I don't want to go through the trouble of replacing the whole thing. That'd be a lot of work. I'd have to cut it out here and order a new piece, and I don't know, I'll have to think about it. And then this side's just as bad. Because I could just keep doing what I've been doing and just cut this bad stuff out and put in strips. That's not that hard.
think I'm going to use the motor bars. Alright, I got this bar on here. Getting that engine picker out of there was a pain in the butt. It was pinched here and I barely got it out. What I really need is a decent intake to put on there so I can put a 4-bolt here and keep my mounting stuff out of the way, because there's just no room here. I think I might have scratched the steel a little bit, not that it matters, but now I gotta lower it. So I'm not sure the Fox body oil pan is a good idea or not, but we're gonna try it. I'm lowering it down on the bar and shoving it in, holding the transmission up on the jack, and it's slowly clearing, dropping down because it's hitting right there. Hopefully I got enough left, otherwise I'll have to figure out a way to crib it up so I can readjust. So I'm using one hook here because I gotta reposition these other 2 hooks. I couldn't find the other hook for this bar. Story of my life. So now I'm gonna drop these 2 down and get this chain loose and then reposition. Alright, I stuck a screwdriver in there. I had to push the motor forwards because I'm just gonna put it where it's supposed to be. I'm not gonna try to get it back further than what it's supposed to be because I want this mount to work. And I'm gonna, now that I got screwdrivers in it, I'm gonna get this floor jack out and then I'm gonna raise it up on the lift to finish fine-tuning that transmission. I think it might be hitting the tunnel. And this is what it's looking like right now. I might need to shift left or right. I gotta figure that out. But this slides on here really easy so I can adjust it. But that's about where it's gonna go. There's a crap load of room there. If I wanted to make my own transmission mount, I could probably get it further, but I would have to forget about these hoses ever being used again. So and there's not a whole ton of room there in the front, but I don't know. I'll have to think about whether I should move it back or not, because having more clearance in front would be nice. There's a lot of room there. Okay, first thing I'm noticing is I put this on backwards because this bracket hits stuff over here. So I need to get the transmission jack up on this transmission. Probably cut this bracket off because it's for a manual transmission, I think. It's not for this anyway, and turn this around because I think it might be, although it does kind of look like it's dead center on the bolt pattern, so I'll have to do some measuring. And so this looks like it's probably not going to be centered. Well, that don't look bad though. Get the camera right in front of the rear end mark. That actually doesn't look that bad.
It does look off center though now. I'll have to look into that. I put the string on it. Right there. And that's not looking so terrible now. It is a little bit to that side, so it's going to be close. Okay, so I measured from here to here, and I got half. And this mount is centered. These bolt holes are centered. And that is centered with the car. Okay, so whatever's going on here, I'm not sure if it's an optical illusion or what. I probably should measure over from there to there and see if this is centered, but I'm pretty sure I did that when I installed it. Okay, so this is center of the K member, and that centered when I installed it. And so I measured from here to here and got center. And the engine doesn't look like it's centered, but I think that's because the motor isn't level. You know, I need to level it. The transmission seems like it's not level too. So I need to level it still, but if I put this up here, like that, then it's right there on the bolt hole. And if I go to this side and put it there the same way, it's the same spot on the bolt hole. So theoretically I could put motor mounts down to this if I'm going to use the transmission mount. So everything's looking like it's doing pretty good. Since I'm using the transmission mount, I'm saying I could use stock style motor mounts and weld them right here, but I got the motor plate, so I might as well use it and figure it'll probably have to mount right in here somewhere with a plate here to bolt it to. So everything's looking good. The transmission has plenty of room on top. I thought it was hitting, but it wasn't. But I did notice that this transmission is missing a shifting linkage. That's gonna suck, because I think you gotta take the whole bottom of the transmission off to fix that. Seems like there's plenty of room everywhere. If I wanted to do a Pro Charger, I'm curious if there would be room for an intercooler and all that. This Fox body oil pan is fitting really nice too. Plenty of room. I need to jack that chain up a little bit and level the motor. All right, that's looking a lot better now that I've got it adjusted. The motor's level, the transmission is level, the car I leveled it with these leveling jacks. So basically across this line here on both sides is level from, if just measuring from that side there and there. So as long as those points aren't too far off of each other, those 4 points, I should be good. Plenty of room there. Plenty of room there. Plenty of room there.
All right, it's in. While it was hanging, I measured and measured and measured and cut 2 notches, one here and one there. And it's centered exactly in the middle from here to here. And I notched it so that it could just hang on here. And eventually, once I know I'm not going to move it, I'll put a plate right here and put bolts in it, probably on both sides. And I might take it off and cut it at an angle from this corner up to somewhere in here so that it drops down. But I was also thinking, well, maybe I don't want to do that, so I should wait until everything's done, because, or test fitted and all that, because I might want to mount something on this for the pulley system. All right, so I found a fix and it fits pretty good. I'm using my bump steer kit that I bought and used and then didn't need after I changed my spindles. So that's straight. And this is how I fixed it right here. I'm probably gonna, grind that like that or something. I gotta weld it all the way in, but I'm not gonna do that until I know for sure I'm gonna do this. The oil plug even clears. These are gonna be still up just a tad bit when they're tight. But I think that's gonna work just fine. So I've been doing some research, and my dart block has 4-bolt mains, and so it needs a different oil pan. So even just fitting this with a stock oil pan, well, it makes sense, because whatever I buy is gonna probably be for a Fox body. But I probably need to wait and make sure before I make this, for a final fix, that the oil pan that I'm gonna use is gonna work. So that's gonna be a whole other video. But just know that if you're doing this with this K member, you're probably gonna have an issue with the steering rack clearance, because I got this engine where it should be and it's not working. So you're gonna probably want to just know that that's gonna cause problems. And on my next videos that I make, hopefully I'll address that, because I'm not taking this thing back out just because of this. So stay tuned.